Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we were looking at the yoga, the Ashtanga yoga, as a sadhana for assimilating the knowledge of Vedanta. Whatever Vedanta has revealed to you, even though you have understood it clearly, that knowledge still can have pratibandhaka or hindrances, obstacles, because it may not be available all the time. So this is well known to us in our own experience. We have a lot of knowledge, but that knowledge may not be available to you at the time you require it, because you may be emotionally overpowered, or you may be you may just not be conscious, because many times we know that we have to go to some place, but the habitual tendency is to drive to your office, let us say. Then if you are not alert, you will still go to the route or through the route which you are used to going every day, correct? Whatever is the habitual tendency, it can overpower if you are not alert. So emotionally also you can be overpowered by anger, whatever, there are different kinds of emotions. So knowledge, even though you have, it may not be available. So to enjoy Jivan Mukti means you are enjoying a certain freedom even while you are alive. See, once knowledge takes place, it is no more a function of your mind or memory or anything like that. Once you have known that you are not even this body, mind, sense complex, everybody is a Videha Mukta only. There is no doubt about that. All the things which we are talking about in terms of Nididhyasana, assimilation, these are all only with reference to having a certain disposition of your mind, so that even while you are alive, you enjoy this leisure, this freedom completely. So that is why the yoga sadhana is talked about. Yoga as a darshana has been rejected. Understand that, because the yoga darshana is also a Dvaita darshana. So we cannot accept the yoga darshana, because they talk about it's also like Sankhya only, but they also talk about Ishvara as a special Purusha. So there are many conscious beings, and then Prakriti is the one which is creating the whole world. So both the Prakriti and Purusha are real for Sankhyas. Therefore, they are actually, and also there are many Purushas. So in this manner, the Yoga Darshana is actually a Dvaita Darshana. And even the Samadhi, they talk about Asamprajnata Samadhi, Samprajnata Samadhi and all that. It is only a particular avastha where all the activity of the mind has been stopped, you can say. But it is not the same as what the Vedantin is talking about here. The Vedantin is talking about a Nirvikalpaka Samadhi where you already have this Jnanam. The Akhandakara Vritti is there, and one is focusing on that. The Jnanam which has come due to that Akhandakara Vritti, one tries to hold that in one's mind and actually hold it to such an extent that it becomes it has to become your very nature, correct? It never goes away. That is the idea. And in the process, you can also enter into a certain samadhi where all the mind activity also stops. But since already this vritti was there, it is assumed that it is continuing even when the subject-object division is no more there in the nirvikalpaka samadhi. So these things we discussed already. And the ashta anga which lead you to this kind of a samadhi is what we were discussing. And these things are there in Bhagavad Gita also. Actually, I shared a document with all of you, I think. I don't know whether you went through that. So Bhagavad Gita also incorporates the complete yoga sadhana, where the yama, niyama, pranayama, asana, all these things are talked about by Bhagavan also. So we accept the yoga as a sadhana for assimilating the knowledge of Vedanta. That is how we consider it, but we don't accept whatever they are revealing independently. Whatever is not in keeping with the Upanishads, in keeping with the Veda, all that we reject. We only take the Ashta Angas as a sadhana. Even in that, our understanding of Samadhi is not the same. It is different. So, we were there, I think we already talked about Yama and Niyama. So now we are going to the third Anga, which is Asana. Let us see how the author is defining that. He says, Karacharanadi Samsthana Vishesha Lakshanani Padma Swastikadini Asanani. So the asanani, the postures or asanas, the yoga asana. In fact, nowadays, yoga means everybody thinks it is only asana, correct? The physical yoga asana, out of the 8 limbs, 8 angas, it is only one. But this is taken the main meaning nowadays. So what is he saying? Karacharanadi samsthana vishesha lakshanani. So kara, hands, charana, legs. So etc. All your different organs. Samsthana Vishesha Lakshanani means what? It is characterized by placing your limbs and hands and all in some particular position, correct? So that is the asana. So asana means you are basically you are in a certain posture, correct? That is the important thing. For a Vedantin, particularly what is more important is he is saying Padma Swastikadini. That is because Padmasana, Swastikasana are all used for, you can say you can use it for dhyana, correct? Sitting in a certain manner, and Padmasana, I hope all of you know. Swastikasana also is a simplified form of Padmasana. In fact, most of us may not be able to do the Padmasana easily, or even if you do that, unless you have practice, it's not easy to maintain the Padmasana. Swastikasana is relatively easier because your legs need not go within each other. But still that also is very popular for as a dhyana posture. So for us, the asana itself is mainly with reference to sitting with your this back straight, correct? Bhagavan also talks about it in the Gita, that kaya shiro grivam, he says, should be in a aligned, you can say, in a straight line. And you should be able to sit, whether you are sitting in Padmasana or Swastikasana, with your Kaya Shiro Grivam straight like this, if you are able to sit. In fact, my Guruji used to say that, and if you are able to sit for one muhurta is 48 minutes. So you should be able to sit for 48 minutes and do some japa or dhyanam, means you have asana siddhi. So that is what we are talking about. You should be able to sit properly, at least. For that, whatever you have to physically prepare yourself, you have to do that. Okay. So that is asana. Then pranayama also is very important, because the mind, if you want to bring it under your mastery, the tool for that is breathing only. Through breathing, we can bring the mind under our own mastery. That's where pranayama. So pranasya ayamaha. What is this pranayama? Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka Lakshanaha, Prana Nigraha Upayaha, Pranayamaha. So Rechaka means what? Exhalation. Puraka means you are filling your stomach and lungs and all with air, correct? That is why Puraka. So inhalation. Kumbhaka means you just hold your breath within yourself. So how you do this? In which order and for how long and all that, the pranayama is there. That you have to learn pranayama properly from somebody who has done that. And even practicing pranayama for 10 minutes in a day is good enough. I think it will be very, very useful for most of you. It can even give you a certain benefit in terms of health, and also it will help you in actually gaining a certain mastery over your mind, because when you focus on your breath, automatically your mind calms down. That is the beauty. So mind is running here and there when your breathing is involuntary, but pranayama is mostly voluntary breathing, correct? Voluntarily you are breathing in a certain manner. This is how you do exhalation, this is how you do inhalation, and you hold on to your breath for so long, etc. When you are doing that with a certain alertness, your mind cannot run away anywhere. In fact, that is why traditionally any dhyanam, any japa we do pranayama, correct? 10 times pranayama I have to do even when I do my sandhya vandanam, and Gayatri japa I do 10 times pranayama. Pranayama also is in another way, even the Sukshma Sharira is supposed to be purified by the pranayama mantra we chant. So that is why we always chant the pranayama. Means it's not just only breathing, it's along with the mantra also. You have to chant the pranayama mantra mentally and also do the breathing properly. Then only it is proper pranayama for us. So it's not just a physical exercise, there is a mantra involved and it has its own effect or potency, we have to say. And then only you are fit, you are purified enough to chant whatever mantra you want to chant, correct? You want to do japa, means pranayama is an important step, because after any japa also involves avahana, dhyana, avahana and all you are doing. You have to do avahanam of a particular devata and then only we do the japa. So you are inviting the devata and then you are doing the japa. So you have to do the pranayama first after the avahana and then do the japa. And after the japa also again we finish with pranayama again and then only ask the devata to leave. Okay, upasthanam it is called. So you ask them to go from wherever they came, they can go back there. So like this, pranayama is very important. Traditionally, we do that even when you are doing the japa sadhana, whether it is Sri Vidya or any parampara, any japa you have to do pranayama. Or you can do pranayama independently also for a length of time. Like I told you, 5 minutes, 10 minutes in a day, it will be very useful. Then what? Pratyahara. Okay, pratyaharaha means what? Aharaha means taking in something, correct? So typically food is called aharaha because you are taking it in. But in a wider meaning, if you take ahara means any sense perception itself is an ahara. Any sense object, it's not just food alone. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, everything is an ahara because everything is a stimulus which is coming into you. So pratyahara means it is the opposite of that. So basically you try to keep the external things external, the sense objects which are external, you try to keep it away. So that's what he says, indriyanam swaswa vishayebhyaha pratyaharanam pratyaharaha. So the indriyas, each indriya has its own vishaya. We all know about that. So the keeping away of your indriyas from their indriya vishaya means you are withdrawing your senses in one way. So you withdraw your senses and then try to then focus on something else. That is the next step. But first step is you withdraw from everything which you do not want to focus on. Because if your indriyas are still going after the sense objects, then there cannot be any dharana and dhyanam and all that. So when we actually talk about dhyana, so dhyana itself we talk about as sajatiya pratyaya pravaha is dhyana, but before that vijatiya pratyaya rahita we say, vijatiya pratyaya rahita sajatiya pratyaya pravaha, like this, and saguna brahma vishaya manasa vyaparaha also we add. So dhyana is a mental activity for which the subject matter is saguna brahma, and in this, if it is nididhyasana, then it is nirgunam brahma. Okay, and in that, whatever is one part is you have to first take the mind away from whatever it is already naturally it has a certain tendency to go after, correct? So from that you have to withdraw the mind. That is the pratyahara. So the mind and the senses have a natural tendency to go after the sense objects, their respective sense objects. So withdrawing that from that is very important. First step. This is the vijatiya pratyaya rahita. When we say, for that you should have withdrawn your mind and sense objects. In fact, sometimes initially when we are doing dhyanam and all that, in fact, we used to do like this. Close your ears. Some people even keep the hands like this here. Ears and eyes we close so that it is easier to focus. Some people do that. And in fact, we even have a support for your arms here so that you can do this and all that. I have done like that meditation and all that. So it is useful. The pratyahara is important step so that you withdraw from all external stimulus. Of course, you have to sit in a certain quiet and comfortable place and all that, correct? So that you are not disturbed by any anything, in fact, whether it is sound or some kind of cold also can disturb you, or heat can disturb you, sounds, whatever you see. For that we close our eyes anyway. Then of course you are not eating anything at the time of dhyanam, and nobody is supposed or whatever is touching you also, hopefully. So basically you are withdrawing from everything, all the sense objects. And then what? Dharana. So in this case, since we are talking about nididhyasanam here, assimilating the knowledge of Vedanta, advitiya advitiya vastuni antarindriya dharana. So your antarindriya is basically the mind, correct? Mind is now focusing or concentrating on advitiya vastu, means the Vedanta jnanam only, aham brahmasmi. So you are focusing on aham brahmasmi, or there are so many other Vedanta vakyas. You can actually focus on any one of that. That is important. So your vishaya is Advitiya Vastu only. There are so many Lakshana Vakyas or Lakshanas are there, correct? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam Brahma, Anandam Brahma, Vijnanam, Anandam Brahma. Like this, all these different words, revealing words are there. You can focus on any of that, or simply Aham Brahmasmi. That the concentration on that to the exclusion of other sense objects, that is dharana. So one pratyahara means withdrawing, dharanam means focus or concentration. Then this leads one to dhyanam. Even when you are focusing on that, what happens? Your mind will still run away, correct? We all know that whenever you sit for dhyanam, the nature of the mind is to jump from one thing to another, to another, to another. So that will happen. But even then, to bring back the mind and again focus on the Vishaya which you set out to focus on to start with, that itself is dhyana. That's why you see how he is talking about dhyanam here. Tatra advitiya vastuni vichidya antarindriya vritti pravaha dhyanam. So this pravaha, already I told you, sajatiya pratyaya pravaha, correct? Vijatiya pratyaya rahita sajatiya pratyaya pravaha. There has to be a flow. Once you concentrate on something, that concentration has to be a flow of the same thought. It has to become, then only it is dhyanam. But even when that flow is there, it will not be always an uninterrupted flow. If it becomes uninterrupted flow, that's what we say is samadhi. But dhyanam means you are still trying to get that flow, and that flow may be disrupted, but again you bring back your mind and continue that flow. That is why it is vichidya. Vichidya means what? Which intermittently only that flow is there, because that flow is disrupted. So the Advitiya Vastuni, whatever nididhyasanam you wanted to do, whatever contemplation you want to do, correct? Or recollection also you can say, because already you are clear about the jnanam. Shravana Mananam you have done. Here nididhyasanam for us is just to recollect that knowledge and make it very strong, okay, so that it cannot be overpowered by your emotions or habitual tendencies, so that it becomes your nature, very nature. That is the sahaja, we say. So in that process, when we are consciously sitting and recollecting and contemplating on this knowledge, still there can be disruptions, but still you keep the flow going with certain disruptions. That is dhyanam. So dhyanam does not mean that your mind never goes anywhere else. So don't think like that. Mind's nature is that. And dhyanam is actually the ability to bring back your mind and keep the flow going. Whatever you wanted to originally do, that is dhyanam. And then samadhistu uktaha savikalpakaha eva. Samadhi we already discussed, but when that flow becomes continuous without any break, that is samadhi. So samadhi, the savikalpaka samadhi is what we can make efforts for. Understand that. Then these are all angas, the ashta angas. The angi, what is the angi? Okay, these are all the limbs. The limbs are whose limbs we are talking about, means nirvikalpaka samadhi is the angi. So evam angasya anginaha nirvikalpakasya laya vikshepa kashaya rasaswada lakshanas chatvaraha vighnaha sambhavanti. So these 8 limbs are there. And following this, you are supposed to enter into Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, but there can be hindrances for that also. In the Yoga Shastra only, these things are all talked about. So the Angi, which is the Nirvikalpa, so Nirvikalpakasya Anginaha Vignaha Sambhavanti, there can be hindrances, obstacles for attaining this Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, which is the Angi of the Ashtangas. What are they? There are 4 in number. Laya. So Laya means basically you go into sleep. This happens, correct? Many times, even we used to have our meditation every day during our 3-year course also. Swamiji used to have meditation in the morning, 6:30 to 7 meditation. Some people, we used to go even earlier and sit there. The temple puja we used to have from 5 a.m. It will finish around 6:15 or something. Then we will go and sit up to 7 o'clock meditation in the morning. But even there, some people will go to sleep. They will even snore and all that. That's because the only state of relaxation we know is sleep. You cannot, as soon as you relax, many people it happens. As soon as you go to a certain relaxed state, you will go into sleep. But you have to be relaxed and still awake and alert. That takes some time, maybe some practice. So the laya is the problem. Then vikshepa, correct? Vikshepa means again some distraction, correct? It goes away somewhere. Mind keeps going everywhere. We talked about that. Then there is rasaswada. Even Bhagavan also talks about this. In the second chapter itself, rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate and all that. Bhagavan talks about this rasa. Rasa means there is still some whatever we have, some impressions, correct? There are hidden subconscious tendencies are there, attachments to certain things. So those things are also there. Even though consciously there is no distraction, there are subconscious and unconscious issues are there. So those are all kashaya, rasaswada, these are all there. Kashaya means again something, so Pujya Swamiji used to talk about kashaya a lot. In fact, even in the Mandukya Karika also this word is used, sakashayam vijaniyat. Like this, Gaudapadacharya also talks about kashaya. So kashaya means it is some certain coloring, certain impressions which are there in you, in your mind, which is all unconscious, subconscious you can say. Those tendencies in fact are sometimes more difficult to overcome. Because whatever is conscious, you can focus on that. Even with your willpower, you can easily overcome. But whatever is subconscious, unconscious, it's not very easy to overcome that. It requires certain tapas, certain continuous effort. And sometimes even you have to process it consciously. By bringing whatever is there in the subconscious also, you have to bring it out and process it, and then only you can become free of that. So kashaya, rasaswada, these are also there. You can have problems. All these 4 things are vigna. They are all obstacles for samadhi. And so he says, he talks about that. What layastavat akhanda vastu anavalambanena chitta vrittehe nidra. So laya means what? Nidra. You go to sleep, like I said. So you want to focus on the akhanda vastu, correct? The advitiya vastu, but anavalamba, but you are not able to rest on that. Your mind, instead of resting on the advitiya vastu and still be alert and awake to that reality, it just dozes off. Maybe due to fatigue, whatever. There can be many reasons for that. So it goes into a certain tamasic state. Rather being in a sattvic state, your mind can go into a certain tamas. So you have to be careful about that. Chitta vrittehe nidra should not happen when you are doing dhyanam, let us say. So that is the first thing. Then what? Akhanda vastu anavalambanena chitta vrittehe anya avalambanam vikshepaha. So again, not resting on the akhanda vastu, advitiya vastu, but the chitta vritti anya avalambanam means what? It is resting on something else. This is vikshepa. This we talked about even in the context of dhyanam also. Your mind will run away to something else. It will associate and then go somewhere else, but you have to be alert to bring it back. So vikshepa, laya and vikshepa means certain alertness you have to have. With that alertness, you can take care of it. But even when there is no laya and vikshepa, also there can be issues. Okay, what is that? Laya vikshepa abhavepi. So even though there is no laya, you are awake, you are alert, and your mind is not running away onto some external objects and all that. Chitta vrittehe ragadi vasanaya stabdhi bhavat akhanda vastu anavalambanam kashaya. So even though there is no laya and vikshepa, laya and vikshepa, the chitta vritti, your mind is not resting again on the akhanda vastu. Why? Because you have certain desires, but these desires are all very deep in you. Okay, raga adi padat, it can be raga, dvesha, some other emotions. So there are so many emotional disturbances when you are growing up as a child. When an emotionally difficult or distressing thing happens, the child is not able to process that. So what happens? Everything is pushed inside, and child will put up a certain facade as though everything is all right. But the disturbance never goes away. It is there in your unconscious. And once you sit for meditation and all that, or once as an adult you feel secure in a certain relationship, these things will come up from inside, and they are very difficult to process. Okay, so sometimes people require therapy for that. So the ragadi vasanaya, all the impressions which have gone into you, into your subconscious and unconscious, they are there very much, and they will come out. So vasanaya stabdhi bhavaha. So what is this stabdhi bhavaha? Means basically it is certain. Stabdha means you can say it is a numbness, etc. So again you are still not able to focus on the knowledge. So it can be even some weird sensations or feeling. So all this also you have to overcome. That is the stabdhi bhava. Because of this stabdhi bhava only, akhanda vastu anavalambanam. So you are not able to again rest on the akhanda vastu, advitiya vastu. This is called kashaya. So kashaya is all the unconscious emotional disturbances which are there, which you have only basically you have suppressed into your mind, but they all will come. They need to be processed. Unless you process your unconscious and subconscious whatever programming which is there, which is also a hindrance to your knowledge, it is very difficult. So this is a difficult part, taking care of the kashaya for many Vedantins. This is a big problem, and it requires very patient effort, and also it requires a certain patience with yourself, in fact, because this kashaya can make you feel that that somehow you may become too self-critical about yourself due to this. You have to be careful about that. So you have to still have a certain patience with yourself. That is also, at the end of the day, it's all only mind, understand? So you should gain a certain objectivity with reference to your mind and the states of your mind, and then let it be as it is, and then those things have to take care of itself. So it's important to know about all these hindrances, and they are there. Unless you are not aware of it also, it will become a different, it will become a difficulty. That's why we are even discussing all these things. So kashaya, very important to take care, and sometimes this requires a certain tapas also. Okay, because you have to overcome all these things by making the vrittis which you want stronger, correct? So for that you may have to do some vrata, upavasa, all these things are also helpful, correct? Or even doing some dhyanam itself for a length of time. All these things are very useful. Japa also you can do. Some devata upasana also can help you with reference to overcoming all these kashayas. Then finally what? Rasaswada. Akhanda vastu anavalambanenapi chittavrittehe savikalpaka anandaswadanam rasaswada. So here the rasa means a certain taste, correct? You have developed a certain taste. So here this savikalpaka, the enjoyment of the samadhi, correct? Because once you have a certain samadhi, that itself is, you are enjoying that state, then you can get attached to that I always want to be in samadhi. If you are not in samadhi, then that becomes a problem. Getting attached to the samadhi state itself is a problem. That is what the author is saying. So savikalpaka ananda is there. To that you have the aswadanam, means what? You have developed a certain taste or attachment or a desire for having that all the time. That also is a problem. Therefore what? Samadhi arambha samaye savikalpaka ananda aswadanam. Also when the samadhi starts, okay, then it continues, and since you want to have that certain enjoyment of the samadhi itself, you may not be able to enter into nirvikalpaka samadhi. Okay, so these are all the hindrances, obstacles, 4 types of obstacles. Okay, so or you can say kashaya is more like a subconscious emotional disturbances and all that, and rasaswada is more of a subconscious attachment to certain things. Both are basically subconscious, unconscious only. It's not a conscious thing. But rasaswada can also be, once that attachment comes, then you also want to hold on to certain things, correct? You don't want to give up being an enjoyer. Experiencing the samadhi itself is a certain enjoyment, and you want to be that enjoyer, bhokta. But what knowledge is what? I am not that bhokta also. So the karta bhokta itself has to be given up. It's not intrinsic to me. But there can be a subconscious tendency to hold on and be an enjoyer. In fact, this kind of a problem, there are many people who say, correct, I don't want to be the sugar, but I want to enjoy the sweetness of the sugar. This is the kind of problem. That is the rasaswada they are talking about here. So that has to be also understood, and you have to be steadfast in your knowledge. then all these four vignas you can overcome. Okay, anena vigna chatuštayena virahitam chittam nirvata deepavat achalam sad akhanda chaitanya matram avatishthate yada tada nirvikalpaka samadhi iti uchyate. So the nirvikalpaka samadhi which we talk about is what, when these four vignas, obstacles, laya, vikshepa, kashaya, rasaswada, all four are not there. Virahitam, chittam, in a mind, in which mind all these four are not there. Then what happens? Nirvata deepavat, like even the flame which is not flickering, correct? Unflickering flame, like that. Achalam, the mind itself is not moving anywhere, and it is resting on sad akhanda chaitanya matram avatishthate. So it is resting on this sadvastu, which is yourself, which is akhanda, which is partless whole, which is divisionless, and which is a conscious being, correct? You are that limitless conscious being. You rest as that. You are that being. That's all. Being that, you are resting in that only. Then what? That is nirvikalpakaha samadhi. So this nirvikalpakaha samadhi also is a state only. More important is that will help you in certain manner. There is no doubt about it. It has been extolled, it has been praised by even acharyas like Vidya. Many Advaita acharyas have praised this samadhi because it is helping you in assimilating the knowledge. But the point is, more important is to understand aham nirvikalpaha. Aham, this atma is really nirvikalpakaha. It is not having any divisions. It doesn't have the subject-object division. It is one whole, partless whole. It is the limitless conscious being. Appreciating that all the time, whether you are awake, whether you are in samadhi, whatever state you are in, that is more important for us. This internalization of this jnanam is what even that nirvikalpakaha samadhi state which is there, correct? The nirvikalpaka samadhi state also is supposed to help you even while you are awake. This knowledge has to become your very nature. There has to be a certain self-transformation, correct? From taking oneself as this limited individual embodied in a particular body, mind, sense complex, your complete self-transformation happens. That I am this limitless conscious being. So the transformation has to come about. And for that only all this sadhana. And nirvikalpakaha also being a state, you will come out of that. But even after coming out of that samadhi, this knowledge has to be there all the time. That is the most important thing. That is what we call sahaja. This knowledge has to become your very nature. For a normal person, even if you wake him up from deep sleep and ask, who are you? He is going to say, I am so and so, etc. Correct? Because that's the identity. That is the natural identity you have. But the Vedantin has to overcome and transform oneself from that identity and claim your identity as Brahman. So that identity as Aham Brahmasmi has to be there all the time. That is Sahaja. And that is the most important thing for us. The Nirvikalpaka Samadhi also is there only to help you to have this Sahaja Bhava, that Aham Brahmasmi, in whichever state you are. So, we talked about all this Samadhi. In fact, here, this author also is quoting Mandukya Karika. I talked about these four things he is talking about, the Vikshepa, etc., Laya. He is not making it up himself. This is from Gaudapada Acharya. So he is giving that quotation from where he is actually talking about these four kinds of Vigna. So he says, Laye Sambodayet Chittam Vikshiptam Shamayet Punaha Sakashayam Vijaniyat Samapraptam na chalayet. Then the rasas, in these three are only there. Okay. So laya he talks about. Laye sambodhayet chittam. So from laya, so when the mind is gone into laya, or it is going to go into laya, you sambodhayet means what? You wake up, you be alert. So the mind, you have to keep it alert, awake all the time. Don't let it get into laya, sleep kind of a situation. And then what? Vikshiptam shamayet punaha. And also when it is going somewhere else, bring it back, resolve it back into the whatever object of your consciousness, which is Atma in this case, correct? So you have to bring it, shamayet means basically you have to again resolve it back into your object of meditation. Shamayet punaha, bring it back, make it calm. Don't let it go here and there. So vikshiptam shamayet punaha. Then sakashayam vijaniya. Also then know, be aware of all the kashayas. So the being aware itself will make the kashaya, you objectify it, means then it is not a problem. See, many times the emotional problems are all there in your unconscious and you are not even aware of it. But once you are aware of it, as an adult, you can actually process it easier. Whatever was a problem for the child is not a problem for the adult anymore. But still it requires a certain effort. You have to know that consciously now and still process it. And there are some, you have to integrate the child with the adult. Okay, that is all sakashayam vijaniya. So the kashaya also you have to be aware of, whatever the unconscious tendencies which are there. Then what? Samapraptam na chalayet. So then once you have attained this samatvaha, this Brahman is sama, correct? Then do not na chalayet means what? Then you do not distract it anymore. There is no more distraction. But here the three things have been talked about, laya, vikshepa and kashaya. Then separately also it is there. Next, naswadayet rasam tatra nissangah prajnaya bhavet. So the next verse, the rasaswada also, Gaudapadacharya is talking about. So even once you have attained this state, that itself should not become for you an attachment, correct? You are now attached to that basic whatever enjoyment of the samadhi you had. To that state, if you get attached also, that is a problem. So you have to be detached even from that. Nisangaha. Prajnaya bhavet means what? Finally it is all knowledge only. Here prajna is what? Aham, not even a bhokta. I am not a bhokta. So you should not get attached to a certain bhoga in terms of that whatever state you are in, and you become an enjoyer of that, and then you get attached to that, then also your knowledge is gone there. So you have to be alert. So nisangaha prajnaya bhavet. So may you be nisangaha. You are atma. You are not attached to anything. You are asanga. That purusha you are not any karta bhokta. The understanding has to come. That understanding has to be clear. That understanding has to be always there, which has brought about a certain self-transformation in you. That is the goal, not getting attached to a particular state or all then wanting to be in a certain state only all the time. Then you have become a samsari again. Understand that. And Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan talks about this in the 6th chapter. Yatha dipo nivatastaha ningate sopama smrita. So 619, in fact 6th chapter itself, Bhagavan talks about lot of this nidhyasanam, how to do all the ashta. In the ashta anga also many angas are talked about in that 6th chapter. Yamaniyamas are talked about throughout Bhagavad Gita. Values and all that, correct? We also saw even in the value of values, 13th chapter also values are there. 16th chapter, different chapters Bhagavan talks about Yamaniyama. But asana, pranayama also he talks about in the 4th chapter. But asana, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, etc. are all mostly talked about in the 6th chapter. And then here he says, yatha deepaha nivatastaha. So when the light, like even the deepa, the lamp, okay, which is not flickering, which is sheltered from any type of wind and all that, correct? And it does not flicker. And your mind also, the yogi's mind also is similar. Okay, it is understood like that. So that is how you have to attain a certain state, and it will help you in assimilating this knowledge. So for this only, this yoga sadhana has been talked about. Then we are going to go into the next topic, which is the Jivan Mukta Lakshana, which is the last topic. Okay, that we will see next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
धन्यवाद जी.
Oh.